My name is Josh, and this isn't the story I ever thought I'd be telling. If you'd met me just a couple years ago, you'd have seen a guy who thought he had it all figured out. I was a software developer, pretty decent at what I did, and married to a woman I believed was the love of my life. Megan, a graphic designer. Artistic, driven, and always chasing some new aesthetic. We met at a tech and design expo in Seattle. She was there with a booth full of hand-drawn typography posters. I was speaking on open-source web frameworks. She came up after my talk, asked a smart question about UI transitions, and then we talked for 2 hours about color palettes and coffee. By the end of the night, I knew her laugh by heart. Our relationship was a fast burn. Within 6 months, we moved in together. A year later, we were married. Everyone said we were that perfect creative couple. I'd write code for fun. She'd sketch ideas for logos or app interfaces. We launched a few side projects together. One of them, a productivity platform for freelancers, started gaining traction. We branded it together, built it together. Or so I thought. From the outside, things looked ideal. We even managed to land a few magazine features. A joint interview in a startup lifestyle blog. A photo shoot where we posed on beanbags with our laptops like a Pinterest couple. But real life doesn't always match the grid. The first crack was a client. Or rather, her client. A European designer named Luca. She referred to him as this creative genius with the vulnerability of a child. That line stuck with me. It sounded poetic, but it also sounded rehearsed, like something she'd said more than once. They met at international design conferences and worked together on what she called passion projects. She showed me some of his work once. Lush, moody poster art that looked like it belonged in an underground gallery in Berlin. I shrugged. Cool, I said. And that was that. Or so I thought. He started popping up in conversations more often. At first, it was normal. Luca wants a custom CMS for his portfolio, or Luca asked me to give feedback on his animation timing. I even helped once. She asked if I could code a lightweight, elegant backend for his site. Nothing fancy, just something clean, she said. I agreed. I mean, it was technically freelance work. And she smiled when I said yes. She always had a way of making her requests sound like collaborations. That winter, we took a trip to Costa Rica. Megan said Luca had covered most of the cost. He's grateful, she told me, lounging in a hammock with a mimosa. He insisted. I should have questioned it. Not the money, it wasn't unheard of for grateful clients to send gifts, but the casual way she brought it up, like he was some benevolent patron. I didn't press. I was just enjoying the sun. After that, she started using encrypted messaging apps. I caught her setting up Signal on her phone one evening. Designers are paranoid about intellectual theft, she explained. Especially with big clients. I nodded. It sounded plausible. I mean, I worked in cybersecurity. I knew the logic. I also knew that encrypted messaging was one of the first signs something was being hidden. Then came the late-night calls. The sketchbook filled with thumbnail drawings of male faces. The days when she came home glowing and refused to explain why. I wanted to believe in her. You see, love has this funny way of dulling your instincts. I didn't snoop. I didn't pry. I rationalized. But you can only ignore so many red flags before they start to choke you. One night, she fell asleep on the couch. Her phone buzzed. Reflexively, I picked it up to hand it to her until I saw the message. From Luca. That photo of you in the studio still has me smiling. I can almost smell your perfume. There's a moment when your heart doesn't just break, it shatters into awareness. All those little things suddenly made sense. The late nights. The encrypted chats. The vacation. My hands trembled. I stared at her sleeping face. Peaceful. Innocent, like nothing had ever happened. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I set the phone down, went to my office, and opened a terminal window. She'd used my code. Our platform, our joint project, ran on my scripts, my architecture. If she had shared credentials, reused passwords, or stored anything insecurely, I could find it. And I did. Her backups were sloppy. Hidden folders, renamed files, none of it clever enough. Within an hour, I had decrypted several message threads, mostly in Slovenian. Luca's native tongue. Google Translate helped. So did a few online tools I built myself. By 4 a.m., I had a 25-page PDF of conversations, photos, booking confirmations, even notes she'd made about me. My stomach churned. But I didn't cry. I printed the file, stapled it neatly, placed it in an envelope labeled for your reading pleasure. Then I sat down, poured a cup of black coffee, and began outlining a new project. Not a platform. Not a product. A plan. I didn't sleep that night. While Megan snored lightly in the next room, I sat in the glow of my desk lamp, studying the woman I thought I knew, but who now existed only as text on a screen, raw, mocking, secretive. The words were intimate, careless, and damning. There was laughter in those lines, not the kind we used to share over burnt pancakes and coffee, but the kind that cuts you out of the joke. That hurt more than anything. In the morning, she acted normal. Made a smoothie, kissed my cheek, asked if I could push our team meeting to noon. I nodded, playing along. If she noticed the dark rings under my eyes, she didn't say anything. Maybe she thought I just pulled another late-night coding binge. "You've been working so hard lately," she said, brushing my hair off my forehead. "You deserve a break." That phrase hung there like a veiled jab. Did she think this would excuse her? That she'd offer a hollow compliment and I'd melt into gratitude while she texted her secret lover? The casual cruelty of it astonished me. The next few days, I watched, observed, collected. I made a copy of her phone backup and decrypted the app she used most, an obscure European messenger with layers of encryption. The more I read, the more I felt the bottom dropping out from under me. Megan hadn't just stumbled. This wasn't a one-night lapse or a drunken misjudgment. It was deliberate, sustained, and systemically hidden. They had a system, times to call, phrases to use, VPN routes to avoid suspicion. She referred to me in code. The roommate. The shell. My silent partner. I laughed bitterly at that last one. One night, she was in the shower, singing along to some dreamy indie track. I checked our shared project's GitHub repo. She had submitted changes, cosmetic updates to the front end, rebranded slightly for a new demo she planned with Luca. The audacity. They were using our joint creation as a pitch deck for a boutique design and dev firm, with her and Luca at the helm. My code. My infrastructure. My idea. I smiled then, for the first time in days. Because that meant leverage. While Megan dreamed of European showcases and beach meetings with her creative genius, I went to work. I rerouted the DNS. Created mirror copies of our database. Rewrote the license agreement to assign ownership to my LLC, one I'd registered silently a year ago for tax purposes. Every inch of this platform ran through me. She thought she was riding shotgun. In reality, she was a passenger in a car I designed, built, and insured. All I had to do was take the wheel. And I would. The moment came sooner than I thought. It was a Saturday morning. Megan was in the shower, humming as usual. Her phone, always glued to her, was left unattended on the nightstand. I had no intention of taking it, at least not until the Face ID screen blinked awake as I passed by and caught my reflection. Her Face ID, as it turned out, hadn't been updated. We had similar facial profiles, mine still worked. The phone unlocked with a quiet click, and just like that, the floodgates opened. I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the encrypted app. There they were, dozens of messages from Luca. Not just recent ones, but archived ones. Images, screenshots, plans, and a voice memo. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone trembling in my hand, as I pressed play. "Sweetheart," Luca's accent laced the word like poison wrapped in silk. "I can't stop thinking about last weekend. You looked like a dream. You always do. I told you, one day soon, it will just be us." "The worst part?" she replied. Her voice, calm, intimate, wrapped in warmth I hadn't heard directed at me in months. "I can't wait. He's busy building things again. He has no idea." She laughed. That sound used to lift me. Now it curled into my gut like a knife. I spent the next hour combing through threads. I translated chunks of Slovenian. Luca wasn't just a client. He was her partner, in passion, in plans, in deception. They joked about the platform, called it their invisible bridge. Their affair wasn't the messy kind. It was organized, intentional, and sickeningly proud. I created a backup of everything, synced it to a hidden folder on my cloud drive, protected with double encryption. Then I cleaned the phone history and left it as I'd found it. She never knew. That night, I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. She stayed up working, or so she said. I watched from the crack under the door as she typed away in the glow of her laptop. Her face was calm, serene, like she'd figured everything out. She hadn't. The next day, I started building the case. First, I gathered digital receipts, travel logs, booking IDs linked to her name and Luca's. I used a dummy account to contact the hotels for confirmation emails. They responded, often casually, unaware of the trap they were feeding. I mapped out the timeline. Each time she said she had a client meeting or a retreat, Luca was there. Even when I was home, taking care of things, she'd lie about staying at a friend's. I discovered they had an email alias together. Not Gmail. Not anything major. A tiny European service meant to fly under the radar. But I caught it in one of the forwarded messages. My stomach twisted again. But I kept going. My rage was a cold thing now. Refined. Focused. One night, as she slept, I walked into the office and stared at our whiteboard. It still held our brainstorms. Our sticky notes. Our roadmap for the next update of the platform. It felt like a graveyard. I erased it all. In its place, I drew a new plan. Gather evidence. Consolidate ownership. Prepare digital transfer. Notify Luca's wife. Deliver final blow. Each step had subtasks. Deadlines. I wasn't rushing. I was orchestrating. 3 days later, I had enough to move to phase 2. I set up a new server. Transferred the domain registration to my private company. Updated the intellectual property terms. I created a new backend branch that would allow me to lock Megan out of admin privileges without triggering alerts. And I waited. Not for her to confess. I knew she never would. I waited for the right time to flip the switch. Because I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to make sure she felt it. There's a particular satisfaction in outmaneuvering someone who thinks they're smarter than you. Megan had always been the charismatic one. The talker. The one who could dazzle a client with charm while I sat behind the keyboard, making the magic happen. But what she forgot was that every click, every file, every update left a footprint. I started cataloging everything. Each text she sent him. Each email forwarded. I built a digital archive so precise, even the best forensic auditor would have been impressed. I had subfolders by date, by topic, even by emotional tone. I used tags like intimate, strategic, mocking. By the end of that first week, I had over 700 pieces of data. One night, I created a flowchart, starting with their earliest recorded communication, all the way up to their planned retreat in Vienna. It was like watching a relationship unfold in slow motion, with me playing the role of oblivious background character. I took breaks, not out of fatigue, but because sometimes the hurt needed room to breathe. During one of those breaks, I called an old friend of mine, Claire, a legal consultant. We hadn't spoken in a while, but I trusted her. I need hypothetical advice, I said. She chuckled. Hypothetical meaning you've already done something? Hypothetical meaning I'm about to, I replied. I laid out a scenario. Woman uses joint platform without proper attribution. Man reclaims legal ownership based on original code authorship. Possible implications? She paused, then said, if you can prove authorship and they don't have a signed co-ownership agreement, it's yours. Hands down. That was all I needed. I spent the next few nights updating our terms of service. Retroactive logs showed me as the originator of 91% of the code base. I timestamped everything. I made sure it was airtight. Then I built a version tracker that pinged me anytime she tried to update our GitHub repo. Nothing malicious. Just a quiet alert system. She kept working, oblivious. Sometimes humming. Sometimes smiling at her screen. I imagined her drafting emails to Luca, making plans, maybe mocking me again in that language I'd learned to understand. I stopped feeling rage. It was replaced by something sharper. Cold, precise intent. Then came the moment I'd been anticipating. She walked in one night with a bag from her favorite wine shop and 2 glasses. Let's celebrate, she said. Celebrate what? I asked, masking my curiosity. We landed that Swiss investor. Luca nailed the presentation. The guy's in. He wants the platform for a private portfolio suite. I smiled, nodded, toasted with her. But inside, I was already adjusting the timeline. If they were pulling in investors using my platform, I had to act faster. That night, I composed an email to Helena Kozik, helena.kozik@something.si. Subject, important information you deserve to know. I didn't use my real name. I didn't need to. Attached were screenshots, translations, dates, photos, a short note. You don't know me, but you need to know what your husband has been doing with mine. I hit send. Then I waited. 48 hours later, Megan's phone rang. She answered. Her smile faltered. Her voice dropped. Helena, wait. No, I can explain. She rushed out of the room. I leaned back in my chair and watched the alert on my screen. Luca had logged out. The game had changed. After that phone call with Helena, something shifted in Megan. The usual brightness in her step dimmed. Her work nights became longer. The mornings more tense. She was constantly checking her phone, often stepping outside to take calls, her voice hushed, Urgent. Something had rattled her. I could guess what. Luca had vanished. Not in a dramatic way. Just slipped into the shadows. No more messages. No calls. His name disappeared from her screen. Even his Instagram, always full of cryptic quotes and black and white sketches, went dormant. She stopped talking about projects. Instead, she buried herself in our platform's updates, trying to salvage her reputation. But it was too late. Because while she scrambled, I finalized the switch. I migrated the full backend to a new private server under my LLC's name. I updated the legal metadata on every API call. Quietly phased out her admin access. To her, everything still functioned, but she was merely a front-end user now. Then I published a changelog on the dev blog, Platform 3.1, under new management. The post was vague enough to avoid drama but precise enough to establish control. As of this release, all core infrastructure and ownership rights have been consolidated under Nevale Systems LLC. We thank our early collaborators and look forward to this next chapter. I disabled comments. The fallout was almost instant. 2 hours later, Megan stormed into my office. Her hair was unbrushed. No smoothie in hand. Did you change the repo access? I kept my eyes on the screen. You mean the platform? I made some security updates. Standard stuff. No, she snapped. Don't play dumb. You locked me out. I can't push changes. I can't see the logs. Might want to check the new policy notice, I said calmly, spinning my chair toward her. Page 4. Clause 3.1. It outlines project ownership by primary code contributor. Her mouth opened, then closed. You can't. But I did. And I backed it with legal precedent. Don't worry, I kept your branding contributions intact in the changelog. She stared at me, trying to decide if she could bluff her way out. But I wasn't bluffing. I leaned forward. Megan, this isn't just about code. It's about trust. And you broke it. So no, you don't get to pretend we're partners anymore. She didn't yell. That would have given me the upper hand. Instead, she stepped back, stunned into silence. That week, she tried damage control. Emailed former clients. Rebranded herself as a freelance design consultant. She posted a carefully worded update about creative differences on her portfolio site. But word spread. A few of our mutual contacts had seen the dev blog. They knew. Meanwhile, I was already in talks with a cybersecurity firm about potential licensing. It was a strange feeling watching someone unravel while maintaining absolute calm. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I'd already mourned what we were. And now, I was building something better. The silence that followed Megan's professional unraveling wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, tense. She moved through the apartment like a ghost, barely making eye contact, nursing lukewarm coffee and fake optimism. She kept trying to talk about starting fresh or moving forward. I gave her nothing. I wasn't cruel. I was simply finished. One evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table and said, "You know, I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I looked at her. "That's the thing about meaning," I replied. "It doesn't undo the doing." Her eyes watered, but I didn't move. If she was expecting redemption, she'd have to find it elsewhere. That night, I wrote the letter. It wasn't a vindictive manifesto. It wasn't even angry. It was honest, raw, clinical. I addressed it to Helena, Luca's wife. "You've been lied to," it began. Then I laid it all out. The timelines. The deception. The way Megan and Luca used our platform to flirt and scheme while hiding under the mask of professionalism. I included select screenshots. Only the essentials. The ones that showed Megan's mocking tone. Luca's entitlement. I attached them as a zip file labeled fragments. In the body, I wrote, "You deserve to know. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. Whatever you choose to do next is up to you. But I wanted you to have all the pieces." Then I hit send. 3 days passed. No reply. I assumed that would be the end of it. Until a new message hit my inbox. No subject line. From Helena K. "Thank you for the truth. He's gone. I hope you're free now too." That was it. I read it 3 times. Then I closed the browser and sat in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just exhaled. Megan never brought Luca up again. Whether Helena confronted him or he simply fled the fallout, I'll never know. But one morning, I walked into our shared workspace and saw her staring at a blank screen. "Josh," she said quietly, "I messed up." I didn't reply. I just nodded. Because by then, I was already on a new trajectory. I had become a case study in how not to underestimate someone quiet. And Megan? She was finally alone with the consequences. You never forget the day someone stops pretending. Megan's mask didn't fall. It slipped, slowly, like a painting coming loose from its nail. The confidence, the poise, the subtle manipulations all faded in layers. I watched it happen like a director behind the scenes of a tragedy he'd written. The first sign was her inbox. Silence. The design proposals she'd sent out? No replies. The freelance gig she tried to snag? Vanished. I saw it all because I still had back-end access to the cloud tools we use to manage client traffic. She paced the kitchen more often, left her tablet untouched for days. She didn't ask me how my work was going, probably knew the answer. Then came the real hit. Our shared brand, the creative tech hybrid that once brought us interviews and accolades, was now redirecting to my new solo venture. I timed the DNS transition to follow her failed pitch to an art festival board. They declined, citing brand confusion and ownership questions. She was furious. "You're sabotaging me," she snapped one evening. I didn't look up. "No. I'm claiming what's mine. Your ego built this," I interrupted, finally meeting her eyes. "Every line of code, every integration, every layer of security. You wrapped it in a pretty skin, but I built the bones." She fell silent. She knew it was true. Soon after, she deactivated her portfolio. I noticed it one morning, just a 404 error where her site had once been. I almost felt pity. Almost. Luca never reappeared. Not online, not in emails, not even through mutual contacts. Like a shadow scuttling back under a rock. Maybe he'd gone to ground. Maybe Helena's truth hit him harder than he expected. Then came the job applications. Megan started applying to agencies again, something she hadn't done in years. I found the PDFs in our printer queue, resumes and cover letters hastily assembled, desperation laced between the lines. But the industry had moved on. Word had spread, subtly but effectively. When you co-found a brand and get ousted without explanation, people whisper. I didn't need to say a word. One night, I heard her crying. Not performative. Real, quiet sobs muffled into a pillow. It didn't give me joy. It didn't make me soft. It just made me remember the version of her I'd loved, the one who laughed with me on our first road trip, the one who held my hand in silence when I told her about my mother's heart surgery. That woman was gone. This one had lied, manipulated, betrayed. And now, she was reaping it all. I took no public victory laps. No gloating posts. I stayed focused, growing the platform under my name, tightening security, optimizing performance. Every update I pushed was a reminder that I hadn't just survived, I had evolved. Megan eventually moved out. Quietly, on a Thursday. Left a note on the counter. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I didn't throw it away. I just filed it into the same folder where I'd kept her apology emails, her unsent drafts to Luca, and every other record of the storm we'd weathered. Then I locked the folder. And moved on. Megan didn't say goodbye. Not properly. Just vanished the way she'd appeared in my life all those years ago, unexpectedly, as if the story were written only for her, and I was merely a subplot. A week after she left, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, I found a small leather-bound notebook. Her handwriting. A collection of sketches, quotes, and unfinished thoughts. It wasn't an apology. It was an echo. A reminder of what she used to be. I flipped through it once, then put it away. Closure doesn't come in neat packages. Sometimes, it's just the quiet realization that your house doesn't echo with someone else's chaos anymore. I focused on the platform. New clients. New contracts. I brought on a part-time dev to help with maintenance, then a UI designer who understood my vision without romanticizing it. Each day, I reclaimed something routine, pride, silence. One afternoon, I received a message from an old college friend. Saw your talk at DEF CON. Impressive. Heard it packed the room. I blinked. DEF CON? Turns out, a clip from a regional cybersecurity conference I'd spoken at went viral. My segment, Emotional Phishing, How Betrayal Begins with Trust, struck a nerve. I hadn't named names. I just told a story. My story. Sanitized. Professional. And hauntingly relatable. By the end of the month, I was invited to speak at 2 more tech events. Then a webinar. Then a podcast. I didn't chase fame. But I embraced the platform. If my heartbreak could serve as a cautionary tale, it was worth telling. Meanwhile, I checked Megan's socials once. Just once. Her account was locked. No posts. No links. Just a new bio. Still learning. Good, I thought. So was I. In the digital age, disappearance is never total. You leave traces. But Megan had done her best to become smoke. No one mentioned her. Even our mutuals went quiet, as if unsure which side to choose. I didn't blame them. I wasn't asking for loyalty, just distance. The irony? Luca's wife, Helena, emailed me again. I left him, she wrote. Started over. I used some of your message in my support group. It helped more people than you'll ever know. That, I realized, was the true victory. Not revenge. Not reclaiming a platform or a name, but transforming pain into purpose. Megan vanished, and I emerged. It felt strange, standing in front of a crowd again. The conference hall was quiet except for the shuffle of notebooks and the hum of projectors. I adjusted the mic clip to my collar and glanced down at the slide. Trust, betrayal, and digital defense. Lessons from a silent war. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. 2 years ago, I was the one blindsided. Betrayed. I'd felt like a ghost in my own home. Now, I was the speaker. The authority. The warning. I clicked to the next slide. A network diagram lit up the screen. Nodes, access points, failed authentications. Most people think breaches happen because of weak passwords or outdated firewalls, I said. But I want to talk about the breach no antivirus catches, the emotional hack. Heads nodded. Pins moved. I walked them through it, not the personal details, but the emotional architecture. How trust makes us lower our defenses. How shared passwords and blurred boundaries become vulnerabilities. How love, when exploited, becomes the most dangerous entry point. Afterward, a line formed. People thanked me, shared their own stories. Some shook my hand with tears in their eyes. Later that evening, in a quiet corner of the hotel bar, I sat with a fellow speaker, Tanya. She worked in data forensics. Sharp, funny, and refreshingly grounded. You've got a hell of a story, she said. Yeah, I replied, sipping my whiskey. It wrote itself, really. You ever hear from her? I shook my head. She disappeared. Her choice. And you? Still carrying it. Some parts, yeah. But I turned the pain into a platform. It's lighter when you're using it for something. She nodded. We talked for hours. About security, music, awkward elevator pitches. It wasn't a date, but it felt like the door to one might be down the hallway. Back home, the platform was thriving. I'd launched 2 new tools under the Neville banner. We had clients in 4 countries, a small dev team, and even a monthly newsletter with a growing subscriber list. The house was quiet. Peaceful. I'd replaced the couch, the one Megan used to collapse on during her long work days. New art adorned the walls. My space. My story. Megan's memory didn't haunt me. It hovered, like a distant chapter in a book I'd already annotated and shelved. One afternoon, a former mutual friend reached out. Said Megan was living in Portland. Freelancing. Quiet. Someone had heard she was in therapy. I wished her well. I meant it. The stage was mine now. Not just the literal ones, but the metaphorical, the life I curated, the voice I owned. I didn't have to scream to be heard. I just had to keep telling the truth. And I was finally, irrevocably free. If you'd told me 3 years ago that the worst betrayal of my life would become the backbone of my public career, I'd have laughed. Or maybe cried. But here I am, at the tail end of a story that started with a lie and ended with liberation. People often ask me, what would you have done differently? The answer? I would have trusted my gut sooner. I would have listened to the silences between her sentences. And I would have protected myself, not from love, but from the blind kind that confuses loyalty with denial. I'm not bitter. That surprises people. But bitterness is a weight I refuse to carry. What I chose instead was reflection, growth, purpose. When I tell my story now, it's not for sympathy. It's for awareness. For that guy or girl sitting in the audience who feels something's off but can't quite name it yet. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. Your instincts were built for more than survival. They're your first firewall. These days, I spend less time in front of screens and more time in front of people. Workshops, panels, keynotes. And every once in a while, I'll get an email that starts with, "Thank you. I left because of your story." That's how healing travels. Not loudly, not with fireworks, but quietly, through honesty. As for Megan, I don't hate her. I don't want her back. I don't even want an apology. I just hope she's learning too. Life moves forward. So do I. There's someone new in my life now. Not flashy, not intense, just real. We build puzzles on rainy Sundays and never hide our phones. That, to me, is peace. My final message? Never underestimate the quiet ones. And never forget, the most dangerous hacks start with trust. And trust, once broken, can become your greatest teacher.